is now the head of federal regulation, saying that he wants to ban free speech and the Second Amendment. I mean, he's actually saying it on video, on television, and that he's the next guy set to be the next Supreme Court justice. I mean, this country's in deep trouble. These people aren't playing games.
You know, it's what caused the Battle at the Alamo. They're essentially declaring the Constitution null and void. We've got a rule of law here. We're just going to ignore it. We ignore it. That's when Travis drew a line in the sand and said, you know, we're not ignoring this. You're not going to toss out the Constitution and name yourself dictator. That's what's happening here. People see it. We will either fight today at the ballot box, or our children will shed blood to regain the freedoms that we've lost. I think we know that. I think all of Texas knows that. Now's the time to dig in, fight hard.
And again,
let's go.
You're just saying what everybody already knows. Finally, you're saying, and I hear all these people calling into talk radio saying, I want Medina. These other people are fakes. I'm hearing Democrats say, I want Medina, not some establishment Democrat who's an Obamanoid. People know the two big parties are a fraud. They know that you're, cut out of Ron Paul cloth and that you're the real deal. We need to make you governor. And we need to certainly try as hard as we can, because regardless, we win in the info war by doing it. I talk about my neighbors, a bunch of yuppies who don't usually care about what's happening. I talk to them now. They're all waking up and freaking out. Deborah Medina, we salute you, and we thank you for your great work. Let me say bye to you during the break.
One major world crisis away from having a totalitarian type of system.
The main event is the wholesale destruction of the world economy.
The push for every nation on the globe to identify and number all of its citizens.
Friends, I hope that you will order Shadow Government from Infowars.com. We also have some specials, and you can get some of our other films half price when you order Shadow Government. A new level in production quality and in information. It exposes how a cashless society, surveillance, beast grid of total control is being put into place. This film needs to be seen. Everybody needs to get it. So order yours today. Show it to your friends, your family, your church, your neighbors, your boss, your employees. Shadow Government, ladies and gentlemen. Get your copy at Infowars.com today. Shadow Government. It gives Big Brother a black eye. Available at Infowars.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.
Big Brother. Mainstream media. Government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Solari.com is her website. Our websites are Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. She's Catherine Austin Fitts. I was talking to Birgitta Jones-Dottier, leading the charge to beat the banks in Iceland, not tooting my horn, an example of what you, the activists, have done. A few months ago, she got a copy of the Obama deception, and she already knew a lot, but that helped, give her even more info. And so another example of how the Obama deception, Fall of the Republic, the type of effect these films are having all over the world. Every few days, I get newspapers calling up saying, these films have been seen tens of millions of times for free online. How much money are you making on those free views? And I say, nothing. I don't want money. I want freedom. I see every person we wake up like a diamond in my hand. I'm into defeating tyranny. Again, it's a hierarchy of needs. I own stuff, but stuff doesn't own me. I'm into truth and justice and liberty. I know that's not corny. I know that's real. I want my children to live in a free society, my son and my daughters. I want my grandchildren who aren't even born yet to live in a free society. They won't even be able to have children under the one-child policy if the globalists are successful. Now, Catherine Austin Fitts has an amazing bio. She has managed more than $25 billion of transactions and invested to date, and has led a portfolio strategy for $300 billion of financial assets and liabilities. She was also the number 2 person at Department of Housing, Assistant Secretary of Housing, and the commissioner of the first Bush administration. And it just goes on and on and on, the things that she's done. Again, Assistant Secretary of Housing, Federal Housing Commissioner in the first Bush administration of President Hamilton Securities Group, Washington, D.C. Investment Bank, super high-powered lady in the system, coming out and exposing it. And she's talked about the crimes committed by Geithner and other people. And you have Geithner at the New York Fed that runs policy for the Fed. You have Paulson at the time at Treasury, the former head of Goldman Sachs, Geithner formerly of Goldman Sachs, giving themselves 100 cents on the dollar for made-up derivatives they made that the public had no, contractual agreement to pay for to them. You have them also ordering AIG to make it secret. And now that's continued on. And that clearly, according to Judge Napolitano and many others, is a federal crime. But somebody who really understands this is Catherine Austin Fitts. So we're going to talk about Bankstergate or Bankergate. I don't want to call it just Timmy Geithner-gate, Tiny Tim Gate, because he's just one of these people. It goes to Larry Summers. It goes to Robert Rubin. It goes to Ben Bernanke. It goes to everybody that got rid of the Glass-Steagall Act. So joining us is a true bona fide expert in all of this, Catherine Austin Fitts. Great to have you on with us.
Alex, it's always a privilege and a pleasure.
Well, you're a busy...
You know what I would love to tell everybody about is how important this Geithner story is. It kind of seems like a big sort of inside baseball squabble, but I really want everyone to understand what's at the heart of this. Now, and I want to use a metaphor. Let's pretend you have a neighbor. And whenever you and your wife go to buy a car, you have to pay 5% to get a loan, but he can get a loan for 0 or 1%. And then when you get a mortgage, you have to pay, 8 to 10%, but he can get a mortgage for 0 or 1%. And then when he starts a business, he can get special loans from the local municipality for 0%, and then you have to, use your savings or borrow your money or take another loan on your house. Well, it doesn't take long to figure that he's going to, if this keeps going on, he's going to be able to buy up everything in town, right?
Yes.
And that's what this is about. Is we've got two classes of players. We've got a Federal Reserve Bank that's saying we reserve the right to provide low cost, if not free, cost of capital, and even now gifts. So instead of him borrowing money at 1%, they just give him the money so he can buy all the houses up in the neighborhood. And what we're talking is a backdoor financial mechanism that allows a small group of people to basically buy up and take control of everything because they have, low cost to free money, whereas everybody else has to pay, market rate, or a much higher rate, number one. But number two, if, let's say, he gets in trouble, he gets bailed out, you get in trouble, you lose your house, you lose your car, you lose your family. And so we're talking about a society that is turning into two societies and two economies, and one is getting rigged money. And that's what this is about, because if you've got a Secretary of the Treasury who's basically trying to rig things, not for the people who are productive, not for the people who are making our economy strong, not for the people who are creating jobs, but the people who are the best dirty players, then it's, for a financial person, this can go no place good. It can never work, because instead of allocating capital based to who's productive, we're allocating capital to who's the best dirty player with the most inside pull. It's kind of devolved into the schoolyard in Lord of the Rings or something. I mean, or in Animal Farm. It's the only, this is the financial version of Animal Farm, and that's what this is about, because we've seen, since the beginning of the Republic till 2 years ago, in all the wars, Alex, in all the programs, in all the government waste, in all the government spending, we build up $12 trillion of debt. And then in a year and a half, this administration has lent or given as a gift $12 trillion to Wall Street and the financial firms. And that is, can you imagine, that is amount equivalent to all the money we've ever borrowed since the beginning of the Republic.
It's incredible.
It's a financial coup d'etat. And that's what it's about. And the power of this thing is, are we going to create a level playing field, or are we not? Because if we're going to if we've got a Secretary of the Treasury who's going to rig the game, in visible, secretive ways, and one of the magical things here is, and I got to give him a lot of credit, is Bloomberg has brought a lawsuit. They won in the first round in August for Freedom of Information Act against the Federal Reserve. brought a lawsuit and won in the first round in August, and the Fed has now appealed. It's in the Court of Appeals, and the Fed is saying we need the ability to lend an insider group of firms $2 trillion, which is part of the $12 trillion, and not tell you who got it and on what terms. And we don't have to provide that under Freedom of Information law. It's an arrogance which takes your breath away.
And they're setting the precedent to do even more in the future. And you talk about a rigged game where they get the free money and now it's just given to them. They then use that money as weapons to buy off states, buy media, buy infrastructure, blow out third world countries, now blow out first world nations. And they have their people in both parties, as you know, in all the major regulatory positions. And I think that's why they're so arrogant now, is they're going for broke. The big question is, and I want to get into how we can push to get Geithner indicted or a special prosecutor or something like that. But the big question is, where are they headed